Hello everybody and welcome to the latest away day preview. Then Rovers set for another South Yorkshire derby at Rotherham United this weekend. Joining me, a man who's played on both sides of that South Yorkshire divide in Martin Woods, and editor of the Doncaster Free Press, Liam Hoden. Martin, as I said there, you've played for both sides. You know what it means to both teams to get a result in this fixture. What are you expecting looking on from afar this weekend?
It's difficult to say I'm looking on for afar because I probably look out for Doncaster more now. So, and I live in the area, so I would probably be hoping for a Doncaster win. I think they're starting to play some good stuff now. The performance level's been better in the last couple of games, so I think it was a matter of time before Richie can implemented his style, and I think hopefully this weekend in the derby it can all come together for a good result.
You've played alongside Richie Wellens. You know what he's like as a player. As a manager, he seemed to want similar traits to the footballing style that Rovers had under Sean O'Driscoll way back when. So you can certainly see what he's trying to implement.
Yeah. I thought he would kind of take bits from Sean because I think we all will do in the future with whatever kind of line of work we get into, like coaching and stuff. He brought a lot of things that I'm certainly going to take forward with me as well. So I thought Richie would take elements of Sean's thing and maybe add a wee bit of personality to it, because we all know Sean was a wee bit dry at times. So it's I think he will implement certain style like that, and that'll only be good for Doncaster going forward with the I'll certainly be going down and watching it anyway, because it's a really good brand of football to be watching. I think he's maybe a few players short at the minute of a good squad, but I think when that all comes together, then hopefully it'll be good times ahead for the club.
Liam, both teams have already had a South Yorkshire derby against Sheffield Wednesday this season. Both teams beaten by 2-0 as well. But how will those experiences help both teams going into this one?
Yeah, it's an interesting warm-up for both. Obviously, Rotherham at home to Wednesday last weekend. And I think both sides, by the sounds of it, obviously seen Rovers do well at Hillsborough, but by the sounds of it, Rotherham did pretty well themselves, and perhaps unfortunate as Rovers were to come out on the wrong end of a result that looks a bit wider than perhaps the game suggested. But they'll be well set up. Rotherham will be looking to bounce back from that one, but it's could be a massive catalyst for Rovers if they can get a positive result too.
Of course, Rovers and Rotherham don't meet all that often. The last league meeting a couple of years ago at the Keepmoat, Rovers won by 2-1. They didn't get to play the reverse fixture that time around due to COVID. A couple of years prior, it was probably a game that most Rovers fans would rather forget, with the 2 injury time goals for Rotherham on that occasion. But when they do meet, these are the games that I would suppose Rovers and Rotherham fans look forward to the most.
It's just, the atmosphere is fantastic, whether it's at the New York or the Keepmoat. It's a big one, really, really sort of close neighbours, and determined to get one over on each other. And there've been some really competitive games as well that were, although it's not one that you do want to remember too fondly, that one at New York, it was a really competitive game, fought right to the end and to the bitter end, well into stoppage time, unfortunately for Rovers. But these are big occasions, and it's nice to have them quite early on in the season as well.
Martin, although your allegiances lie with Rovers now, probably your best moment in this fixture came for Rotherham. Would you agree with that in terms of a goal, the one at the Keepmoat the year before you joined Rovers? Not a bad one, that, was it?
No, it was all right. I actually never played, bar a pre-season game, I never played for Doncaster against Rotherham. So, I mean, not that I was going to beat that moment anyway, mate, but probably one of the best goals I've scored. Don't know what I was doing, chucking step-overs in and all that. I don't know what I was up to. I think boys would laugh that I play with now. I think, what are you up to? That's not you at all. But I managed to kind of get it out my feet and hit it into the top corner, and it meant nothing in the game. We get beat 3-2 anyway, so might have been a good goal, but we never won.
Of course, you'll have come across South Yorkshire derbies though throughout your time with Rovers. How big is it that you play the game and not the occasion? It can be easy, can't it, to get sucked into that atmosphere and let that sort of take over your emotions, I suppose.
Definitely, especially kind of for the younger heads. If I think Donny's pretty young squad in the main, so if they let their emotions get the better of them and start lunging into daft things, or kind of not playing the way that Richie wants them to play just because of the emotions, then it won't be good. But if they can control that, which is big in these derby games. I think we had a couple of red cards over the years in the South Yorkshire derbies. So it's kind of just people keep a calm head and be able to go and implement the game plan that Richie will put in place.
Liam, how much can Rovers sort of look at what Rotherham have done with Paul Warne in the way that they're trying to mould Richie Wellens and giving him that time to progress and create his own squad? Rotherham struggling in the Championship and pretty much relegated when Paul Warne took over. Since then, although they have come down a couple of times, they're still winning promotion every other season. So the fact that he's been given that time to put his own plans in place, and there's probably no stone left unturned anywhere in the club now with him overseeing a lot of it.
Yeah, I think there's that recognition that Rotherham are a better side, a better run club with that stability that Paul Warne's brought. You know, there has been, if they look at themselves in the pecking order, that's probably where they are, top end League One, bottom end Championship. You're going to have that hovering, and it's been great to see that there's not been any knee-jerk reactions to any of the relegations that have happened under his tenure, and that is kind of what all signs point to what Rovers want to achieve as well with Richie Wellens, a long and prosperous future. Every single year, despite what happens, you're making steady progress so that at some point you can get into the Championship, but also have that stability to give yourselves a really, really good chance of staying there. Rotherham were quite unlucky last year not to stay in the division. They took it right down to the wire. And again, they've come down. They've lost a couple of players, but they're really, really strong again for another run at trying to get back to the Championship. That's ideal for a club because it's not tearing everything up every single season, not tearing everything up when there's a setback. And that's exactly what will suit Rovers. It suits the overall look of stability and sustainability at the club. It's just about keeping a manager in place, and everything that Richie Wellens says, he sees himself as a Doncaster Rovers manager for the long term, and that should be music to everyone's ears.
Martin, you probably expect a bit of a clash of styles at the New York on Saturday. Rovers with that patient build-up going through the thirds. Rotherham, a team who, with Michael Smith up front, like to get the ball into the box early and try and put the defenders under pressure. How do you see that matchup going?
I think Big Tom Anderson, that'll play into his hands. I don't know who'll play alongside him, if it'll be Williams or I think John got injured last night, did he?
Yeah, Anderson injured at the weekend as well, so it might be a bit
is he, mate? Oh dear. So I mean, that might be a younger kind of guy coming into the team as well, which that was in the fire if they're wrong, because he's a handful. So yeah, that'll be a difficult one to deal with. But if they deal with that and then start picking the second balls up, then Donny, I think, are a lot better footballing team. It's just being able to win those first and second contacts. If they do that, then hopefully they'll be able to go and get a result. Yeah,
the last time Rotherham had a full season in League One, Liam, Kiefer Moore was the big man on that occasion, wasn't he? When Rovers probably really struggled to deal with him. Michael Smith scored a goal against Rovers in the past, and it always seems to be when Rotherham are at the best, they've got a real good focal point up top.
Yeah, and they're sort of fingers crossed that over the next week they managed to retain him as well. I think there's been a little bit of Championship interest, which just shows you how big a player he's been for Rovers and what people think he can do in the second tier, as he showed last season. It's a tough one to deal with, really tough one to deal with, and it will be. We saw Ben Blythe do really, really well at Stoke on Tuesday night, but this will be perhaps a different type of test than the one he faced, one that's someone who's going to get really in his face and try and bully him a little bit if Ben Blythe happens to play this weekend.
Of course, a couple of doubts for Rotherham as well. Ogbene, the winger, who from all the sounds of it has been their danger man all season up to now. He came off with a hamstring injury against Sheffield Wednesday. Although it's not as bad as first feared, you'd be surprised to see him straight back into the team after just a week, wouldn't you? Which then opens the door for former Rovers man, another man who's crossed that divide in Kieran Sadlier.
Yeah, I think it's a big blow for Rotherham that Ogbene's probably going to be missing for this one. All signs point to that he won't be involved. He has been a really dangerous player for them, by all accounts. But Kieran Sadler, he'll have a point to prove. It's not perhaps gone as well as he might have hoped at Rotherham. He's not been sort of a mainstay in the team. I know he's had his injury problems. Missed a penalty last weekend against Sheffield Wednesday, so he'll be determined to show his stuff. I think he'll probably get a bit of stick from the away end, given the him deciding against staying with Rovers and then finding himself at Rotherham. So he'll have a point to prove. He can play with a chip on his shoulder at times. So it will be interesting to see how he does this weekend.
Of course, on the Rovers side of that, John Taylor won't be involved this weekend. I'm sure he'd have been itching to get out there after leaving Rotherham a couple of years back. He did have a game against them at the Keepmoat, but that just highlights the calibre of players Rovers are going to have missing this week. And you look at it already, Taylor, Okunabiri, Hiwula, Anderson, John and Bostock, doubtful. Still remains to be seen whether they'll be involved. And it shows that only 4 games into the season, Rovers already doing it tough.
Just when you think it can't get any worse, you watch Cameron John limp off after 12 minutes last night. You're thinking that the main thing on Tuesday night were to come through it without picking any further injuries up. Richie Wellens has seen a player come off injured early. He's seen other players having to play a lot more game time during that game than what he would have liked. Yeah, luck on the injury front has not been with Rovers at all this start of the season, but players are coming in and playing the part, doing well. We saw the youngsters do it on Tuesday, and a few of them might end up having to be involved this weekend.
Martin, you'll have been involved in teams where maybe results aren't going your way at the start of a campaign. And is it easier when you can see what the manager's putting into place and the patterns are there? If it's just that cutting edge as it has been for Rovers that's missing at the top end of the field, then you can work on that, can't you, and look to improve?
Absolutely, mate. I think that's what happened at the start with Sean O'Driscoll. I think everybody's getting used to his style. Everybody's getting used to his ways round about the training ground. I mean, it took me, I'll be honest, I was one of the slow ones. It took me about a good pick up exactly his ways, because I was a young guy and he likes people to problem solve for themselves, Sean did. So people get different styles and people pick up in different timescales. So I feel as if Richie maybe he's got people that are at different stages in the learning under his management. So when they start to all to pick it up, I think, and then they get all their full squad back to pick from, I think they'll climb the league. But sometimes, as I said, it does take a little bit of time for people to gel and pick up to the manager's ways. But when it does happen, I think Richie's playing style is really going to suit, and I think the fans are going to really enjoy watching it as well.
Do you think Richie's ideas maybe will get it across a bit quicker than Sean's, given the way he goes about his business and the way he will just be open and honest and say exactly how he wants it without leaving too much room for problem solving? Yeah.
Well, Richie's certainly more kind of, he's more upfront. Me and Richie had a few wee kind of set twos when we were playing with each other. We used to always kind of go back and forward with little arguments, but I like it. I liked that when it was basically work it out yourself. I mean, that was like right to the board work. We want people to kind of on the pitch. So with Richie, he'll certainly be kind of doing more to pull people to the side and explain it a bit more, I feel. So hopefully I'll be able to kick in fast, because as we said the other now, they're going to go against a team that Rotherham know exactly what they're all about. They've done it for years now. It's the same manager for years, so it's going to need to be it's going to be a tough, really tough game, because as I said, they're all set. It's going up to a big striker. They know they're going to need pick second balls up and play up. They play at a good tempo as well, so it's going to be difficult, because Doncaster's in that transition period, but Rotherham knows exactly what they're up to now. So it's going to be a tough one, mate.
How do you see it going then? Rotherham 6 points from a possible 12, back on home soil, of course. Rovers 1 point from 12, but seeming to progress in each game that they play. What are your predictions, obviously, with your Rovers hat on?
It's a difficult one. I really want Donny to win, but is it kind of maybe a couple of injuries too much for the squad to cope with? You've just informed me there that Tom's out injured, who would be a massive miss. Who's going to play alongside them as centre back, and that is a tough place to go because they're not going to be looking to pass it around, and the young centre back can keep in his shape the way he probably did last night against Stoke, where it's all playing through the thirds. It's going to be straight up, and it's going to be first and second contacts, which is, it could be good in a way for a young guy to look really good, but it could also be found wanting with the physicality side of things, because that is a big lump that we'll be playing against, and he's certainly a handful. So, mate, I don't know what way to go with the prediction. So I'm sitting firmly on the old fence because I just don't know what way to swing. I hope Doncaster wins. I think the results will start to come. Just don't know if Saturday's too soon, because I think they know exactly what they're up to, and have known now for a number of years.
Liam, go on then. Where do you see this one being won and lost? A couple of injuries for both sides. Rovers probably more so all around the field. Where can Rovers win this game if Rotherham are left wanting?
I think it's in the middle of the park. That's where they have been so strong. That's where the most progress has been made, getting that control. Obviously, it'll be a bit of a blow if John Bostock's not involved. Fingers crossed that he'll play, because he has done really well. And that ability to slow things down and play at their own tempo. We've seen them do that in a couple of games, and they managed to even do that at Accrington in all the madness that there is when you play at their place. So I think that's where it comes from Rovers. Obviously the difficulty as well as the problems at the back. It's the problems in attack as well, and that lack of threat in and around the box so far. So it is definitely going to be a difficult one. But if they can establish a bit of control in the middle of the park, then that's probably going to be key to success.